Hello and greetings everybody, and welcome to the Metal Magdalene with Jet right here on Metal Messiah Radio. Today we have with us as our guest back on the show Mr. Steffen Kummerer of Obscura. Welcome back to the show, Steffen.
Hey over there. Pleasure being back again.
So first of all, Steffen, before we get into everything, earlier this year, you were on the 70,000 tons of metal cruise. So how did that all go for you guys?
Oh well, that was definitely a new experience for the band. First of all, we never played in the Caribbean seas or overseas at that place at all. And of course, we never played at a boat. Although we once had a show in Indonesia where we played in front of a big submarine, which was basically our backstage. But it was not, at sea, so to say. But overall, I think the 70,000 tons of metal was a nice festival. It took like a week. And, well, we played 2 shows together with a couple of other great bands, and I had an exciting time over there. It's definitely one of a kind, and, if you want to see something special.
And you're trapped on that boat. There's no escape, Steffen.
That's one of the negative issues, but, well, you have to deal with that. There's always something negative, but overall, I think it was a good one.
So, Steffen, you multi-talented in playing different music instruments, writing, composing, producing, etc., etc. When did this interest in music start with you, and when did it become more of a passion?
Oh, that's a very good question, and I have to go a couple of years back when I was around 8 or 9 years old, and I started to play piano and sing in school. The classic way of starting with music, I would say, is school. I'm not from a musically gifted family, so no one of my parents is playing an instrument. Neither do my sisters. So, well, in school, somebody recognized that I have a certain kind of talent for playing music, and somehow over a couple of corners, I boarding school that is dealing with musically gifted people. So in the end, I had to apply. I got accepted, so I passed all tests, and I got some kind of government support financially for the whole thing. And I went there for a couple of years to learn piano, to sing in a choir, to learn the first steps in music theory, not really composing, but more like the basic steps, and of course to train your ear. The fun thing about that is, you mentioned Tulkandra before, which is a black metal band. Mm-hmm. My teacher was the brother of the Pope, Mr. Ratzinger. So,
wow, that's kind of cool.
That's a cool story to tell. And since I was not the easiest kids back then, I got kicked out because I made too much trouble. And for a couple of years, I didn't do anything. But at the age of 16, I bought my first guitar and simply translated what I already knew from playing piano, from what I learned at a certain boarding school, into playing guitar or death metal. And I was simply interested by that. And at the same time, I was pretty much into building computers, not only using them, but also like tuning them, building them. And that way I somehow drifted into audio production, and I studied that at a later point. So the same way I studied music as an instrumentalist, I started to study engineering and always combined it with music, audio production. And that's where I am now. So it's a long answer, I know.
And when did you, you said that when you were younger you had to do chorus and that kind of thing, but when did you find your voice, so to speak, to sing this kind of music? And how do you think that your vocals have progressed throughout the years singing this kind of music, Steffen?
Pooh. I think I didn't reach the end of the progression yet. Mm-hmm. I definitely know where this question comes from, and if I see the whole discography of what we did as a band, so far each album sounds a little bit different. And Well, in the beginning, of course, I tried to sound like this or that death metal sound you're familiar with all the music you've been growing up with. But I would say, starting with Omnivium, Acroasis, I was more or less deciding in which direction I wanted to go, and I simply let go all major influences I had. You can also recognize that I'm doing less deep death growls during all the songs. Here and then there are some, but I changed the register a little bit. The colors changed a little bit, and between Acroasis and the new album Diluvium, I think I made a big step ahead, especially in arranging choirs and backing vocals, which are a very, very big part of the choruses in each record, in each song. So, and for the next album, I have another row of ideas. So it never ends. But really saying, well, I got my own voice as a singer, or let's say as a death metal singer, I would say that started somewhere in between recording Omnivium and Acroasis in those years.
And today we're going to talk about your band Obscura and the new album as well. So Steffen, give people a little bit of history behind Obscura, why you formed it, and what you wished to accomplish with this band.
First of all, when we founded Obscura in 2002, we wanted to have fun as a band, enjoy, hanging out together. We have been four friends simply writing music, and from that point on, it simply progressed into, what we are right now. We are a worldwide touring death metal band, which is, gaining with each release. And, we had never had any aims, to be honest, and I guess this is a big pro that keeps us freedom. We never wanted to a world tour having chart positions or anything like that. We simply step by step. And what I gained from the hardcore scene is this DIY attitude. And this is something I'm living right now. And I do most of the work of the band simply on my own. I keep most of the work on my own shoulders. And this didn't change since day one of the band. Since we formed the band, I was the guy making things happen, and this didn't change up to now. But at the same time, I never had big aims. I never said, hey, I want to tour with Metallica in my life. Which is definitely nothing I would neglect at all. But at the same time, you have to be realistic. And this is a big pro of the band and, us as a group.
So what is the current lineup now, Steffen?
Linus Klausnitzer is in the band since 2010, 2011, and he's playing bass, fretless bass to be exactly. Sebastian Lanzer is still in the band as drummer since 2014, and in 2016, Rafael Trujillo joined us as a lead guitarist.
So, Steffen, before we talk about making the new album, explain to us the 4-album conceptual circle you got going on.
Well, this whole cycle started around 10 years ago in 2008 when we put Cosmogenesis together, which is the first album of those 4 records. The whole cycle is based on 4 albums, and all of them are connected between music, lyrics, visuals. And if you have a look simply on the album covers, you see that the colors are emerging, that the names are fitting, or they're the opposites to each other: Cosmogenesis and Acroasis, Omnivium and Diluvium. And the whole cycle is more or less representing a big cycle of death and rebirth. So it starts with Cosmogenesis, which is basically the origin of everything that's existing. Omnivium, the second album, represents the, evolution. And the consciousness is represented by Acroasis, while the last one, because it's a death metal cycle, it's the ultimate apocalypse. So this is Diluvium, where everything ends.
So tell us about the writing process of Diluvium and what everyone contributes to this process.
I would say the album was written on equal shoulders by the band. sometimes we had writing partners, sometimes somebody wrote the song more or less alone. But what fits to each record is that the whole band is, in the end, working out the arrangements. So, of course, the drummer is, Sebastian Lanze, is focusing on writing his drum lines. The lead guitarist is writing mostly of his leads, while the bassist Linus Clausnitz and myself are writing a lot of songs. But in the end, it's a band effort, and everybody put on the table what he can do best. What differs in our band from maybe a couple of other bands is that everybody contributes. We have a drummer that is also writing music, as well as the bassist, the lead guitarist, and myself.
So what does Diluvium mean, and how did you approach now writing the lyrical content for this album, Steffen?
Diluvium is a term from geology, but at the same time used by a few religious texts. It basically means it's a big flood where everything is being washed away. And I more or less found this term in consciousness, and it's also representing the idea of talking about the big flood, the big sea of nothingness, which is relating to the idea that at the end of the universe, at the end of all existence, there's the idea that everything, every matter is dissolving in a big sea of nothingness. And Diluvium, well, represents this whole idea pretty well.
And that doesn't mean that this album is going to mean, like, after this there's going to be a rebirth, does it, Steffen?
It's a big question. You never know what is going to happen, and the whole lyrics basically deal with the idea what is happening afterwards. There are a different point of views. Sometimes it's more or less clear that this is the ultimate end of the cycle, and sometimes it's basically an open end. Musically speaking, the last song, the very last song, is leading with its chords to the first chord of the first song of Cosmogenesis, Anti-Cosmic Overload. So musically speaking, it definitely gives a rebirth.
And now you just released your latest track off the album, Emergent Evolution. Who decides what tracks to pre-release, and what is this song about, Steffen?
Actually, the whole band is deciding which songs we are going to release, and of course also which songs will get the video treatment when we produce a proper music video for. And to be honest, for Diluvium, we had a big issue because we didn't know which song we have to choose, since the songs are so different, and it's hard to choose one song that people can more or less guess how the album may sound. So we decided for the title track, Diluvium, since first of all, it's the title track, and second, it's the most brutal song. So we simply wanted to see heads roll. This is the reason. And Emergent Evolution was the song we thought might fit as the second song, because it has a little bit more, well, classic Obscura songwriting and, of course, melodic approach. So we have the opposite between a very, very brutal and technical song to a more, the opposite, a more melodic end of the spectrum the album has to offer. And I think so far the feedback from the fans is very good, and for both tracks, somebody is more into the shredding, some are more into the slightly melancholic vibe Emergent Evolution is representing, but it's, well, to each his own. And a week later we will release another new song, and I can't wait how people react on that. But back to your question, you wanted to know what is Emergent Evolution about. Emergent Evolution is linked, as many other songs, to songs that are written within all this circle. So to be clear, Emergent Evolution is linked to the song Incarnated from Cosmogenesis, especially when you listen to the tapping part. that is more or less like a melodic line that's like a theme that is coming again and again. And well, the whole song is asking the question, what is all this life about? If it's just about to die, or if there's something after. So it's a more abstract idea of the life cycle. It's more like asking questions about everything.
And now Diluvium will be released on July 23rd off of Relapse Records. So Steffen, where was this album recorded, and how important was it for you to have it recorded there?
The album was recorded once again with our longtime producer, Ventura. He's a very close friend of mine and also the producer, or at least he was involved in each recording we ever did. He is the producer of all records, even the demo from 2003, and he was also involved in the only production he didn't lead by himself, Retribution debut. But he's very important to the overall band sound. Together we evolved actually the sound Obscura has, and well, sounds like the whole signature sound we play and you listen to is evolved by Ventura and us as a band, whoever was in the band. And he's very, very important for us, for the whole sound, but also for the arrangements. He knows how we want to sound, he knows exactly where we want to go, and he understands everything. And aside from the technical point of view, I think this is the most high-end production we ever had.
And how long did it take for you guys to record the whole thing, Steffen?
Just recording took about 3 months. Mm-hmm. We started in early October, first or second, I think 1st October, and we delivered the masters by the end of December, mid or end December. I don't know the exact date, but you can tell roughly 3 months in a row. Just recording, not writing, only recording, right, day by day.
And now you had mentioned in an earlier interview about the approach you took towards recording the drums for this album, resulting in a more organic type sound. So tell us a little bit about that, Steffen.
In terms of production, I have a very different opinion and also a different view on sound. Since I didn't study music, I studied physics and engineering. So I have a lot of knowledge about electrical engineering, electroacoustics, psychoacoustics, and therefore a lot of sound. So on the last record, we simply rented a bigger studio to work with room acoustics. That means you're not recording a drum set in a small recording booth, but in a big room where you also place a couple of specialized microphones and add this to the sound. Those microphones are meant for the more silent parts where you only hear a couple of details instead of the fast blast beats where a lot of frequency ranges are fulfilled. And I think Acrasis already had a very good drum sound, but it was not close to what we hear or see as being perfect. So what we did for Diluvium is simply building our own room. So in Salzburg, Austria, is Obscura's headquarters at the moment. That's where Sebastian Lanze and Rafael Trujillo live. Mm-hmm. And there we have a very big studio, and it's roughly about 60 or 70 square meters. And we measured the whole room and rebuilt the room in terms of acoustics, so it sounds exactly as we want. You have to think about, sometimes you feel, okay, there's a little bit too much bass here in the mids, it's a little bit too much. We don't see it as a feeling. We simply put a couple of microphones in there and we analyze the whole room, and then we change the room in terms of it has to sound. And there it starts from the acoustics. The second part we changed is the use of very, very expensive preamps. So we bought and lent us a couple of preamps that have the value of, like, I think a new Mercedes in the United States. So this is really a lot of big effort, and I just can recommend, well, have a good audio system at home, or listen to the whole album with good headphones, and if possible not an MP3. But you definitely can hear the difference. If you just listen to the drum sound, I think this is top notch, and I'm very, very proud of what we achieved so far.
And now, how did you go about recording the guitar parts, and what was your goal for how you wanted them to come across to the listener, Steffen?
Compared to Acroasis, I was looking for a more direct approach, and especially a little bit more sharper sound, which is, a little bit more, not easier to understand, but easier to digest. You have to see that Acroasis was, built alongside the lyrical theme as a little bit more laid back and, more proggy feeling album. That means we used many different guitar lines, many delay lines, and it's pretty much packed like a wall of sound. With Diluvium, I wanted to go a different way, since it also represents this apocalyptic feeling. I wanted to have a direct approach. That means we changed the arrangements into, one guitar left and one guitar on the right. Mm-hmm. And also gave the guitar sound a little bit more sharp sound. We used a different amp this time. We used an Angle Fireball instead of our live setup. And the whole sound is extremely direct. And I think if you listen to the album the first time, the guitar sound might sound a little bit dry, but I think it's crystal clean, and you hear every single glimpse, every single aspect the guitarist is doing, every glimpse, everything. And I think it turned out very good.
When the entire album was all mixed and mastered and you all got to hear it for the first time, do you listen to it together when you do that, or not? We as a band have been involved in mixing and mastering, so we know, and of course have to approve each and every step that has been done, mixing and mastering. So there was no romantic point that the whole band is meeting in the studio and having a barbecue and listen to the album as a whole. Unfortunately not. No. It was more, okay, I'm at home, finally I have to master, but it's 4 o'clock in the morning. Now I go to sleep. Listen to it tomorrow. So what did you think, Steffen, when you actually got to hear the whole thing together, all mixed and mastered, and actually hearing it for the first time?
Well, it's hard to say, since when you work so long in this small area of songs, we basically worked on 10 songs plus 2 bonus tracks. And if you're together with all this for months and months and months, not only recording but also writing before, it's hard to really get an objective opinion. But to be honest, I'm very proud of what we achieved. I definitely see the differences to the previous records. And I'm very proud of the diversity of the records. As I mentioned, we had a hard time to choose a certain song as a first single or a second single, but I'm very happy that this album turned out so diverse and so colorful. So it's not one-dimensional, it's interesting. So it doesn't matter if you're more listening to only tech death or prog death, black metal or thrash metal, it doesn't matter. The album has so much to offer, and I guess there's something for everyone to find in.
Well, I was going to mention that too, that I listened to it a few times, and it's actually enjoyable to listen to, if that makes any sense, because it is clear and nothing really seems to get lost. Like you had mentioned, you could hear all these different sounds coming from the drums and the guitars, and you could actually hear the bass in it, and you could hear the sing, and the vocals are great. Now, you said some of the reviews so far have all been pretty positive as well.
Well, so far the reviews I've seen have been fantastic, and I can't be more proud about that.
So tell us a little bit now about the cover art. Tell us about the cover art and the artist, Steffen.
Orion Landau is the cover artist that works for us since 2008, and he already made 5 or 6 artworks for the band, and he's basically the face of the band. He visualized all of the ideas we had and we have at the moment, and I think it's simply fantastic to work with one artist on the long term. When I started to think a little bit more about artworks when I was a teenager, I always loved bands like Cannibal Corpse that always worked with the same artist, because you simply build a certain view. You see a shirt or a CD or anything, and you immediately know it's exactly this band, and this is something I wanted to build up. And Orion is totally a nerd to work. And if you see the booklet he built up for this album, and also the packaging, like the haptic feel of the whole product is simply amazing. And I'm very, very happy to found him. It took a long time when we started to look for an artist. We checked out many known and artists, but thanks to Relapse Records, they recommended Orion Landau at that time. And we are always working together directly. So I sent him a couple of lyrics for the album, then pre-productions, so he get the vibe and the mood of the certain songs. He's also into the idea when I brought up this color scheme with all the opposites of colors, and it's simply easy to work with him. It's perfect, really perfect. And there are many details in the certain artworks. If you see Diluvium as it is, it should actually be the red album. Red is the opposite of blue. Mm-hmm. But we wanted to more or less underline the apocalyptic feel, and also the idea of the monism and dualism in terms of religion that we represent. So we worked a lot with black and white, but kept the signal color red in the very center. Mm. So this is the ultimate end of all ends. And as a little Easter egg, this is also a small link to the artwork, which is not in the cycle, but the artwork of our demos, Illegimitation, we re-released a couple of years ago, which is exactly the same color red, the same red color, exactly the same color schemes. So, when you end something you worked for such a long time and begin it again, you also have to see where you're coming from. This is what I wanted to say with that artwork. And, well, I could talk another 2 hours if you want to, but this is a basic answer with a good ending so far.
So how will the album be released then? I mean, will it be released on vinyl? Because especially when you have artwork that we want to be looking at so well, we need something bigger than a CD.
That's true. And it seems like our fans also are very much into vinyl. Like all the vinyls for the previous records, I mean, all of them have been sold out immediately. And Relapse decided to print 7 different vinyl versions this time. And there's even a picture disc for the real collectors. So if you like the artwork, there's a picture disc. I think it's limited to a couple of hundreds, but it's definitely worth. It's definitely worth each cent, and also it sounds very good. So get it.
and Steffen, what kind of guitar did you use to record this?
For the rhythm guitars, I used the ESP Horizon, a 7-string with a Floydrop trem and EMG setup. And for the lead guitars, I used a custom M2 ESP guitar with a bolt-on neck, and also EMGs, but the 66 and 50 is collection sounds a little bit more rocky, like a rock guitar. And I think you hear the difference. You definitely hear the difference. And I also use this guitar now as a live instrument. It looks like a classic white Strat, but it plays amazing. And I'm very happy with the instrument. I'm just waiting that ESP is rebuilding my own model. I have a certain custom shape, and we all agreed that this is a good idea to bring back on stage. So at the moment, I'm waiting for my new guitar.
Oh, nice. So are you going to be able to will it be done for you to go out and do your shows, Steffen?
I'm not sure how long it takes. The guitar is going to be manufactured in Japan at a main custom shop. And this simply takes a lot of time. I mean, this is not a piece of plastic you simply can print in a 3D printer. And I totally trust the craftsmanship, and I don't have a problem with waiting a couple of months or even a year. I'm totally fine with that. Quality always first.
Now, you had mentioned about your master of engineering. Does all this training and knowledge that you have, does it make you extra critical when it comes to your own band sound, Steffen?
it actually more helps me to see where things could be made better. Production, for example, recording. In terms of sound, I think we never had those big issues. We always seen where things have to evolve and progress. And from that point of view, I just see it as a pro. I'm very thankful to be able to, to have studied this kind of subject, which basically fits very well to, making music, making videos, and all those subjects.
And are you guys going to be doing any touring this year that we spoke of? If so, what's on your plate this year, Steffen?
So far, for Europe, we confirmed 2 festivals. One is a Summer Breeze Festival. It's a major Summerfest open air in the center of Germany, not too far away. And a big festival in Italy called Cologne Summerfest. Mm-hmm. It's basically the same size. But what may be more interesting for you is that we just confirmed a North American tour to come back to the United States and Canada. And we already published the lineup. So support acts will be Beyond Creation, Artspire, Inferi, and Exist with my friend Max Phelps from Death to All. So watch out, will be a massive tour.
Oh, yeah, that's going to be a good one when you get here. Now, when do you start the U.S. leg of this tour?
In September and October, so pretty soon.
Okay, and Steffen, if people want to know more about the band, what you have up, what your guys are up to, what tours you have, what are the best sites to find all that information on?
Well, the best site will be definitely the band's website, www.realmofobscura.com, and there you find all kind of information concerning shows, upcoming tours, and everything a website has to offer.
And there you guys have it. The new album, Diluvium, out on Relapse Records July 13th, I think. Is that right, Steffen?
Yes, it's 13th.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming back on the show, and all the best to you on the new album and tours you have this year.
Thank you very much, and, enjoy doing your show, and would be a pleasure have you as a guest during the North American tour.